On some of these broadcasts, we've had GE and others talking about technological developments, big data and the industrial Internet of Things and digitalization. So perhaps we can explore some of those industrial trends a bit later on. Wissam, thank you for your patience whilst we've been talking at this end. So you're coming from a slightly different perspective. You're advising government, and so you're not producing product in the same way that an aluminium manufacturer is. What are you as an organisation, doing to build a culture of innovation?
A lot. I mean, government deals with some of the thorniest challenges out there. When you think about the kind of policy that government has to develop across healthcare, education, all the different services that government provides, and trying to anticipate also what's coming around the corner. It's no longer enough for government just to think about the challenges that are already there, but also to think about what's coming next. Add on top of that this ambition for us to be one of the leading countries in the world, and that's really a lot to think about. And so some of the things that the government does in innovation, and already you hear a lot about them, is, for example, the establishment of the Mohammed bin Rashid Center for Government Innovation. I mean, that's as clear a sign as any that government takes innovation very seriously. That His Highness would set up a center specifically about building capability around innovation in government, enabling innovation to take place, and supporting experimentation across government.
If I can, on those 3 points that you've just mentioned, the first one about building capability within government to innovate, what does that mean? What is capability? Is that about the speed? Is that about removing red tape or the speed of decision making, or what does the building capability involve?
A number of things. First of all, we create spaces where innovation can take place. So, for example, there's a very real physical space,
so this is
which is the innovation
like
center.
Suzanne was talking about an innovation hub you referred to.
Almost, yes, but for government. So essentially where policymakers, frontline staff, even those who are affected by certain government policy can come together and think about how they can solve problems that government is facing.
So I guess this is, so these are innovation spaces where people can come together, and it leads to what sort of suggestion programs, or what comes out of these discussions?
Various things. It really depends what we're trying to achieve. So, for example, and I know, Salman, we were talking earlier about kind of your experience having gone through the Government Accelerator, which is another kind of innovation space that we have. So sometimes it's about working towards solving a specific policy challenge. So whether it's about, improving road safety, or whether it's about improving healthcare outcomes. So sometimes we'll have a specific policy outcome, and then because of the role of the Prime Minister's office, we can then support the entities in terms of fast tracking whatever decisions need to be made.
So is that the accelerators program you're talking about, the fast tracking?
So that's the accelerator program. That's one example. But in the Innovation Center itself, then you have areas where people can come together to brainstorm, to run hackathons, to run various design workshops. And this could be whether at the policy level, at the national KPI level, or even at the service level, where thinking can take place.
So I'm guessing though, at government though, you, as an outsider observing government, you have a lot of very well-educated, motivated, intelligent people setting ideas and policy, and then you have the frontline delivery of services. How do you ensure it gets from the hub, the brainstorming, ideas generation, into improving the functioning of cities, for example?
You do that by involving people at every level of the organization. Okay. So anywhere from the minister in charge of the government entity all the way down to the frontline staff. And what we've found is the more you can get those who are directly dealing with a problem to have a say in how it's solved, the better the outcomes are. So generally what we try to do is we try to work with people who are impacted by whatever it is that is being looked at, or who are there providing the service to solve that problem. We get them to develop the solutions that, or the innovations that will address that, and only then do we try to bring in more senior leadership to support, endorse, and then make sure that that gets implemented through.
Okay, and you said there were two other areas. So the first was building the capability.
So actually, along capability, I want to mention one other thing, which is there is an innovation diploma program actually, which has been run for the last 2 years, and part of that is graduating chief innovation officers as well as other people in positions of management that support innovation.
Was part of the innovation, the national innovation strategy was to have chief innovation officers
Correct.
at every government department.
Yes, correct.
So something like 44 or
yes.
something to be correct.
Yes.
So how is that going, that program? I mean, do we now have 44 chief innovation officers across?
Exactly. So that was a very immediate goal of setting up the center, to have those counterparts at the entities who can then have the capability to grow innovation within their entities, and then as well become kind of the counterparts for the Center for Government Innovation across government.
So, is every innovation officer across the different government departments, are they the same? They've got the same mandate, or it depends on which department they've joined?
It's different for each entity, so it really depends. And by the way, these are people who have kind of their full-time positions, but in addition to that, they assume this role for supporting innovation.
So if I'm an outside, a lot of Mead's audience are people that are looking for business opportunities or how they can engage with government or big organisations in the region. So if I've developed, say, an app that provides some, I don't know, healthcare service, and I want to get to the Dubai Healthcare Authority or the Health Authority of Abu Dhabi, do I go to the Chief Innovation Officer? What do I do with my...
Well, the role of the Chief Innovation Officer really is to enable innovation to take place. Those who are responsible for whatever policy or service is being provided are still responsible for them. So, if your app delivers a specific service, you'd want to go to the department or person responsible.
So the Chief Innovation Officer is about looking at the organisation and creating this culture.
It's an internal-facing function. Now, one thing I'll mention, Richard, very quickly. So we talked a little bit about building innovation capability within government, but there's also innovation at the national level. So you have, for example, in 2015, the Prime Minister's Office launched the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, which really addresses kind of how the country is innovating as well. One of the things that we look very closely at, for example, is the Global Innovation Index and how well we do as a nation on that. So that's kind of I wanted to provide another kind of
how well are we doing as a nation?
We're doing a lot better year on year. 2 years ago we were ranked 47th, and in 2017 we were ranked 35th. So we're moving at a pretty fast pace forward.
And is there a target? Is top 10 by 2020?
The target is always to be among the best in the world. Okay. So definitely we're heading in that direction.
So what has taken? So you've gone from you said 47 to 35. So that's 12 places. Why has the UAE gone up 12 places in the past 12 months? What has been the key to that?
The same reason that we just heard from Salman, that people are innovating so well at EGA, because leadership takes it very seriously. It's a number we track very closely. There are sub-indicators within that show how well kind of the UAE is supporting innovation, and that cuts across really a number of things, from the economic sector to the research sector.